This wreath is a one roll wreath. If you're not familiar with the one roll wreath, friends, basically what that means is we're going to use one entire roll of 10-inch deco mesh to make this beauty, but no other colors. So it's a one roll method. I'm going to be using this self-healing mat and a rotary cutter to cut my deco mesh. But if you don't have a self-healing mat and a rotary cutter, just grab a good pair of scissors and either a tape measure, you know, a ruler, some sticky tape, something that you can use to measure your pieces, because when you're making the one roll method, friends, your measurements, they don't have to be exact, but they need to be pretty close. You can't go all willy-nilly like you sometimes see me do. If you've been around on my channel for very long at all, you'll see that sometimes, well, most times I'll just pull the pieces up and cut them across and just eyeball it. But with the one roll method, we need to be a little bit more precise. So what we're going to do is open this deco mesh, and again, if you've purchased a wreath kit from me, all of these supplies will come in your kit. But if you're making this on your own, this is just a burlap colored, like a tan, it's not actual burlap, 10-inch roll of deco mesh, okay? So let me grab our work wreath frame, and if you've not worked with these, friends, there are 18 ties in total, both top and bottom, and we're going to do the poof and curl method with today's wreath. So what I want you to do is just on the bottom row here, just pull all of your ties out so that you're pointing away from your wreath. We're going to start on the bottom here. And so what you'll want to do, friends, is take your 10-inch deco mesh. And if you've not worked with deco mesh, it likes to fray. And so we need to do as much as we can to prevent that fray. And we're going to start with the poof method. So at your end here, I just want you to scrunch and gather so that you've got your end in your hand. And then just take that end and curl it under about, probably not quite 2 inches. So that tucks away your ends and hopefully prevents that fray. And then starting at any lower level set of ties, take that bunch of deco mesh, don't let go, press that all the way down into the center of these ties, and then give it one really tight twist, one or two. We're not gonna permanently tighten these up because we're going to go back through and add some more deco mesh in just a minute. So to make the poof method, you need to be able to measure out 10-inch poofs. And so the poofs are going to be this deco mesh that kind of come up and over and look like a poof. And we need those poofs to be 10 inches because, again, those measurements are pretty exact when you're doing the one roll method. So you're either with your self-healing mat or a yardstick or tape measure, you're going to measure, I'm sitting on the 20-inch mark, so I know I need to go to 30, 10 inches on your deco mesh. And once you find that 10-inch spot, you're just going to scrunch and gather your material, pinch it in your hand, and go to the next set of ties on your wreath frame. Don't let go. Press that all the way down into the base. And again, give it one or two really tight twists to hold that guy in place. And then I just take my hand and kind of fluff that poof out. And then we're going to do the same thing again. I'm going to sit this set of ties on my 20-inch mark. I'm going to roll it over here to the 30-inch mark, so I've got 10 inches. And I'm scrunching and gathering. Just going to turn those edges under. Don't let go. Move on to your next set of ties. add that poof all the way down to the base. Give it 1 or 2 tight twists to hold it in place. And now we're going to move on to the next. We'll do one more together, friends, and then we'll speed through this lower level. So I'm placing the ties I just secured on the 20-inch mark, coming to the 30-inch mark, because that tells me I've got a 10-inch poof here. Pinching and gathering in my hand, going to that next set of ties, and placing that all the way down to the base, giving that a tight twist. So let's repeat this step all the way around the lower level, friends, and then I'll meet you back here once we get to that starting point. Now that you've worked your way all the way around that lower level, you've just got one more poof to make, going from the last set of ties to the first. And so you're going to follow that same method, friends. You're going to make a 10-inch poof. Hold that firmly in your hands, and now we're going to jump this to that first set of ties that we started out at. And so we're going to carefully untie those twists, add our deco mesh down to the base on top of that first piece, and again, give it a tight twist or two to create that last poof on the lower level. So now our entire lower level is completely full of the 10-inch poofs. Excuse me. And now we need to jump up to the upper level. And so on the upper level, take your ties and just point them towards the center of your wreath here, like so. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then where we left off, I want you to take your deco mesh, keeping it fairly firm in your hand. We're going to jump up to the closest set of ties to where we left off at. That happens to be here. We're not making any poof. We're just gathering that together in our hands, going straight up to that tie, not super tight, but tight enough, and giving it a couple of tight twists. And now we've successfully jumped up to the upper level, and we're going to follow the exact same poof method, except this time we're going to make 8-inch poofs. So the lower level was 10-inch poofs, the upper level will be 8. And so take your ties, a little bit harder to see through, find your marker, come out 8 inches, scrunch and gather, and then jump over to that next set of ties on that upper level and give it a couple of tight twists. So we'll do this all the way around, friends, and then I'll meet you back here once we get to that last set of ties. All right, it's time to jump from our most recent set of ties here to the very first set of ties on the upper level. So just like before, we need an 8-inch poof. Then, just like what we had done on the lower level, we're going to carefully untwist that set of ties and push this poof right down to the base and cinch it up again with a couple of tight twists. And now we've made our last poof. So go ahead and grab your scissors. This is where you need to be careful, friends. And as close as you can get to that tie, you might want to leave about a 1/2 inch if you can. Make sure you don't cut anything you're not supposed to, but go ahead and cut that off. And I just gathered it in my hands, friends, and gave it a snip. And you can see it's about, 3/4 of an inch of a little nub there, but no worries. No one's going to be able to see that. So now we've loaded our wreath base with our poofs on both the top and bottom. So now we're going to set this off to the side, either with your rotary cutter and self-healing mat or your scissors. We're going to cut up the rest of this roll into 8-inch pieces. And first I'm going to just cut off this jagged edge from where I cut off that last poof. So either with your scissors and your yardstick or measuring piece, or your self-healing mat and your rotary cutter, go ahead and cut off the whole rest of the roll into 8-inch pieces. And then I'll meet you back here. So now we've finished cutting that roll up entirely into 8-inch pieces. Now let me tell you what I've noticed on my last several orders of DECO mesh. If they would have had this roll be exactly the right length as what it says, we should have had 18 pieces that we've cut up so that we could place one piece in each tie on our frame. However, as I cut up this roll, I actually only have 16 pieces. So if your roll was short by any amount, we're just going to skip 2 spots. It's not that deep, guys. So I don't want to put the 2 spots that we skip side by side, but it's okay to skip 2. And so what we're going to do now is just make a curl. And as you can see, the DECO mesh likes to curl up on itself. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Just a little bit more tight of a curl. So you're just going to take one piece of the DECO mesh that we just got done cutting into pieces, and you'll have yourself a curl. It's probably, anywhere between 1 1/4 to 2 inches in diameter. You're going to come to your wreath base. Doesn't matter if you start at the top or the bottom. We're going to put 1 curl in every single tie on our wreath base. And so when you put your curl in, you want to make sure that that seam side is down. And you're also going to be careful. You're going to gently open up that tie, add your curl in so it's at the center of that curl. Press it all the way to the base of your ties and give it 2 tight twists. And then we'll grab our next curl. We'll do one more together. Just roll that up onto itself so that you've got a curl. Hold that in your fingers. Come to your next set of ties. Gently open those ties up and place your curl into the set of ties, seam side down. And we're going to repeat this method all the way through our entire wreath base, adding 1 curl, seam side down, to every single set of ties. And in my case, I was short 2 curls because the length of my mesh wasn't accurate. And so I'm just going to randomly skip 2 ties, adding them into 2 ties. Doesn't matter where, you just don't want them side by side. So let's go ahead and get these added into our wreath base, friends, and I'll meet you back here. We have just completed the 1 roll method wreath base. You've added 10-inch poofs on both layers of your wreath, curls at every attachment, and now you're ready to load your wreath base with your sign and embellishments of choice. Happy crafting! So let's go over some of the supplies that we're going to be using for this pancake wreath. Now I'm actually going to be making an extra large pancake wreath. This is an 18-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree. Most of the time I make my pancake wreaths on the 14-inch. However, I wanted something for my own door just a little bit bigger and sassier. And so I decided to go with the 18-inch wire frame. We're also going to use 2 rolls, or 2 types I should say, of 10-inch DECO mesh. We've got the black and white plaid and a yellowy metallic gold. I've got 4 different ribbon types. 2 2.5-inch wired ribbon and 2 1.5-inch wired ribbon. We'll be using these for both the bow and the tails. And of course you're going to need your hot glue gun and some glue sticks, some pipe cleaners, And you'll want to make sure that your pipe cleaners match in some way. Your decorative mesh, good pair of scissors, your wire snips. So let's dive in. You need 16 pipe cleaners, friends. So I'm just going to take 8 pipe cleaners and cut them in half. No need to be wasteful. All right, so we've cut 8 black pipe cleaners in half to give us 16. And now we're going to load these into our wire wreath frame while our glue gun heats up. So you're just going to take a pipe cleaner, friends, and we're going to do 2 rows, the inner 2 rings. So we've got ring 1, ring 2, and ring 3. The first go around, we're going to add 8 pipe cleaners that attach around the inner 2 rings. And then we're going to add 8 that attach to the outer 2 rings. So 8 on 1 and 2, and 8 on 2 and 3. And for the inner rings on 1 and 2, you're going to attach these around the crossbar. And all I'm doing here, friends, is wrapping it around the crossbar and giving it a couple of tight twists, and then that'll leave you with, you know, 1.5 or 2 inch tails of your pipe cleaner. So we're just going to work our way around on the crossbars of rings 1 and 2 and give them 2 tight twists, and then poke those chenille stems or pipe cleaners up in the air. So let's get those attached, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, now once you've got your pipe cleaners attached on rings 1 and 2, right there on the crossbar, now we're going to add our second row of pipe cleaners. This time you'll be in the middle between each crossbar. So the same concept, just take your pipe cleaner in the middle of the 2 crossbars, give them 2 tight twists, poke your chenille stems up in the air, and move on to your next section. And again, in between the 2 crossbars, right in the middle, give those chenille stems 2 tight twists, poke them straight in the air, and work your way around your wreath frame, friends, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, now we've got all of our 6-inch pipe cleaner halves wrapped around our wreath frame. So we've got 8 on the inner ring and 8 on the outer ring. This next step, friends, is optional. If you've got your pipe cleaners on fairly tight, you don't necessarily have to do this. I just do it because I like to know that everything is nice and secure. But what I'm going to do, friends, is grab my glue gun, and then all the way around the wreath where every pipe cleaner touches the frame, I'm going to add just a little dollop of glue to make sure that our pipe cleaners don't slide. You should just go ahead and run a little bit of glue, just a little stripe of glue, right over your pipe cleaner onto the rung of your wreath frame, just at one of the 2. You don't need to do both. That's overkill. And all you really need is a 1/2 inch. You just want to give a good secure attachment to where your pipe cleaner meets that frame. So I'm going to take just a minute here and add my glue all the way around on each pipe cleaner, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, friends, go ahead and set your work wreath frame off to the side. We'll give it just a little bit of time to dry while we prep our deco mesh. Now remember, we've got 18 pipe cleaners, so we've got 18 places that we're going to be adding our deco mesh. Now you can cut and prep your deco mesh, friends, one of 2 ways. If you've got a self-healing mat and a rotary cutter, that is for sure the quickest way to cut your deco mesh. If you're just starting out and you don't have a self-healing mat, just go ahead and grab a good pair of scissors and your ruler or a tape measure, and we'll get our deco mesh prepped. So we're going to add 1 piece of deco mesh to every pipe cleaner. Remember, we've got 16 pipe cleaners, so we're going to do 8 cuts of each color. And our cuts are going to be 20 inches in length. All I'm going to do at this point, friends, is roll out my deco mesh and cut off 16 pieces, 8 of each color, at 20 inches in length, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, friends, now we've got 16 pieces of deco mesh cut at 20 inches in length, and because we are using 2 different colors, I've cut 8 of each color. Let me show you how we make the pancake wreath with our 10-inch deco mesh. And again, remember, the purpose of this style of wreath, friends, is so that the design is actually thinner and it can fit between your main external door and your screen door. Go ahead and grab your first piece of deco mesh. And as you can see, it likes to curl in on itself. We're just going to lay that out flat so that the direction that it wants to curl is down. And then at the end of your deco mesh here, you're going to place your hand in a stationary way, both of your hands, and with your fingers, you're going to scrunch and gather that piece of deco mesh until you reach the end. We're not going to do a pruffle like you've seen me do in many of my other videos. The entire thing, scrunch and gather, until you've got your ruffle, which looks like this, kind of like a bow tie pasta noodle. With the pancake wreath method, friends, typically, well, generally, I always add my deco mesh in on the bottom level and then move to the top. That's just a personal preference and a habit, but it doesn't really matter. However, with the pancake wreath method, it does matter. You are going to need to start on the lower level, on the outermost ring of your chenille stems, and I'll show you why in just a minute. So just open up your pipe cleaners, add that deco mesh right down in there, and then give it a couple of tight twists. And we're going to come back in there in a short bit. It might be easier, friends, if you take the inner row of pipe cleaners and just point them towards the center here of your wreath. It'll just keep them from getting caught up on your deco mesh, because we know it's sticky and it likes to grab things. So once you've added in your ruffle, then you're going to take this ruffle and pull it over onto itself so that you're really overlapping a good, I would say, 4 to 5 inches on both ends. So where those seams are, pull one over the other so that they're overlapping, and then you can press it down. And you want your little nub of a pipe cleaner sticking up so that it's accessible to you. So again, both ends are overlapping one another. The top is overlapping the bottom by at least 3 inches. It looks like mine's every bit of 5 inches. And then you've got this round circular bit of deco mesh. And as you can see from the side view, it's really quite thin. So we're going to do that all the way around the lower level only. And because we've got 2 colors, friends, we're going to alternate back and forth between the black and white check and the yellowy gold. So let me show you one more time together, and then we'll zoom through. Grab your piece of deco mesh, roll it out so that the curling side is down. Place your hands stationary at the end of your deco mesh, and then pinch and gather, or walking your fingers up the center of that deco mesh all the way to the end, and then pinching it so you've got this ruffle. Move to your next piece of chenille stems on the outer ring of your wreath base, and then take your deco mesh, shove that down into the center of your pipe cleaners, give it a couple of tight twists, and then just like before, friends, you're going to grab each edge, overlap one another, by at least 3 inches. Mine's closer to 5 on both sides. And if it wants to curl up, then you can just flatten it back down. And now we've added 2 of our pieces into our wreath. And as you can see, the piece we just added is overlapping the first piece we had put in by a good couple of inches. And again, make sure that little nubbin of your pipe cleaner is sticking up in the center. And then work your way to the next one, alternating colors back and forth. And then I'll meet you back here once we've filled in the entire outer row. All right, friends, we've got our outer ring completely full of our first layer of our pancake wreath ruffles. And so to me, it really looks like a flower, honestly. But if you look at it from the side, guys, look how nice and thin that is. So I do want to add a correction to the beginning of this video. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I actually grabbed poly jute for the black and white checked, which is a lot thicker than DECO mesh. And because of that, I don't have much tail left on my chenille stems. So I want to retract what I told you earlier about cutting your chenille stems in half. Just go ahead and use the full 12-inch chenille stem all the way around your wreath base, friends. Okay, so as I had told you earlier, when we do the pancake wreath, we do not add both layers of DECO mesh at the same time. We're actually doing this in a different work order. So we first add our lower level or the outer level of our DECO mesh all the way around, and before we go to the next level of DECO mesh, we go ahead and add our ribbon tails in. So for my wreath, I'm only going to add ribbon tails to the yellow flowers or the yellow ruffles on my wreath, friends, just because I'm going to do something a little bit different with my bow. Now, if you are not adding a bougie bow, just the standard pancake wreath method, you would add ribbon tails to every single chenille stem on both the outer and the upper. So you choose what suits your style best. And you determine how many you want to add. But for my purposes, for the lower level, I'm just going to be adding 4. So we need to cut our tails. Cut as many as you need, friends. And we're just going to prep enough for this lower level for this instructional video, but it would make more sense for you at home as you recreate this, just to get all of your tails cut up as soon as you know how many you need. If you're going to add tails to every single chenille stem, of course, we've got 16, so you would need 16 of each ribbon type. If you are going to add a small bow, you would only need 15 of each ribbon type, because you would reserve 1 set of chenille stems for your bow. So it depends on what how you are going to create your wreath. So tweak this recipe as you would like, friends. Want to make your ribbon tails, friends, regardless of how many you're adding, at 12 inches. And so what I do is I simply measure out either on your self-healing mat or, you know, with your tape measure or ruler. You're going to measure out 12 inches. Find that 12-inch spot and pinch it with your finger. This is just a way to make your tails quicker. And then flip it over until you have the total number of tails that you need. And I'm just going to cut 4 for this instructional video. So I'm going to flip it until I have 4. There's 2, 3, and 4. And then cut off your ribbon there. And then you're just going to find the center of your ribbon stack, regardless of how many pieces you're cutting. Find that center, grab your scissors, run that right through the center and give it a cut. Flip over your ribbon stack and do the exact same thing. And then you'll have the total number of pieces you need. And remember, I just cut it for the lower. And then you're going to want to trim your ends. You can either dovetail them or cut them at an angle. I'm going to actually cut mine at an angle, friends. And so I'm going to take my scissors coming down on the right hand side about an inch, 3/4 of an inch, and then cut up on the diagonal to that opposite corner. I'm going to flip it over and do the exact same thing. Now, if you have a good pair of craft scissors, such as I do, you can actually do several pieces at once. You definitely need to know your scissors and what they can cut comfortably. If you try to overload your scissors, you're going to have a jagged cut, and you won't like that. I know that mine can manage of this thickness, 3 pieces. And so I'm just going to get these ends cut at an angle, and you can see my angles are running the same way. They're not going opposite. So you're actually going to add 2 ribbon tails to every chenille stem that you would like to add them to. And so I've got 4 pieces of this, because remember, I'm just adding 4 sets of ribbon tails in on the yellow deco mesh. But I'm going to then pair it up with 2 of the black and white, check, and 2 of this yellow, so that I'm actually alternating back and forth. And again, you want this to be 12 inches. All right, friends, so let's add in these tails. And again, you're going to add these wherever you choose to add them in your wreath. For this particular video, I'm just adding them in the yellow, remember? And so to add a tail, you're going to take your 2.5 inch ribbon tail, place a 1.5 inch tail on top. You need to find that center, friends. So just fold it in half, give it just a gentle fold, and then that line or that pleat will tell you where your center part is. Pinch and pleat until it looks like a men's bow tie, and then just fold it down over your thumb or your finger until you have this gentle V. Then come back into your deco mesh, gently untwist that chenille stem, place that set of ribbon tails right down in the center of your pipe cleaners. And then we're going to cinch it back up. So you'll give it 2 or 3 really tight twists, and then either trim off or curl down that set of chenille stems. Fluff out your tails so they're pointing out towards, you want them to point away from the center of your wreath. And you can see we're peeking through nicely, and it's super cute. So we're going to come to the next yellow in my case, and again, add them where you like. And I'll grab my 2.5 inch tail. This time I'm going to alternate, so I'm going to grab this 1.5 inch black and white plaid. I'm going to fold it in half to find that center. Just give it a gentle fold there, and then that center line will show me my central point. Pinch and pleat until it looks like a men's bow tie. Fold that over your thumb until you have somewhat of a V, and then come to your next pipe cleaner, wherever that may be, wherever you chose to place it, and then carefully untwist. Add your tails down into the center of those pipe cleaners, and then give it 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. And then either trim them off or curl them under. Fluff out your tails here. So cute. And then go on to your next deco mesh and pipe cleaner stem to continue adding your tails wherever you would like throughout your lower level, and then I'll meet you back here. I've got my 4 sets of tails added into my yellow deco mesh. Once you have all of your tails added into your deco mesh, friends, make sure that you've either curled down or trimmed off the excess bit of pipe cleaner, because you don't want that to get caught on the next layer of deco mesh. And so now it's time for layer number 2. And when you add in these ruffles, it's a little bit tricky because you've got to lift up your previous level, find that chenille stem, and then, you know, kind of work your way around this layer of deco mesh. So let me show you what we're going to do here. Go ahead and grab your next piece of deco mesh, and just like before, friends, go ahead and make your ruffle. Until you've got your ruffle and it's pinched between your fingers. So find that set of chenille stems, which is probably somewhere near between, even though these are overlapping, between your two ruffles. And part that a little bit. Add your deco mesh ruffle in, give it a couple of tight twists. And then you got to fight it a little bit, guys. That's the tricky part of the pancake method. You're going to add this ruffle. You're going to tuck in your lower level ruffles underneath the upper level. And just like before, friends, you're going to pull one over the other so that you've got at least a 3-inch overlap on both sides. And we've just added our first upper level ruffle. And again, friends, this is a little bit tricky. So if you, as you work your way through and it seems a little bit challenging, that's just part of the process with the pancake wreath method. Just give yourself some grace and some time. We've added our first ruffle in. Let me alternate colors just like we did on the lower level. So I'm going to grab a piece of the gold, create my ruffle. Keep that pinched between your fingers. Grab your wreath. Gently lift up your ruffle and find that next set of stems. And get that added down in. Give that chenille stem a couple of tight twists. And then tuck in your lower level ruffle underneath what we've just added in, like so. And then make sure you take your deco mesh and overlap it by at least 3 inches to create that nice round flat flower or pancake looking piece of deco mesh. There we go, friends. We've added in our second piece. So just like before, I want you to work your way around adding in your deco mesh to all of the open pipe cleaners, alternating from one color to the other, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so now we've added all of our deco mesh into our wreath base. I know that that upper level is a little bit painstaking, friends, but it's so worth it. Look how cute this turned out. Lots and lots of color and texture. However, if you take a look at it from the side, friends, that's probably only 4 inches thick. At this point, friends, go ahead and continue to add ribbon tails into your upper level of deco mesh. And at that point, then you will have completed your pancake wreath base, and you can add in the florals and bows and wreath embellishments of your choice. All right, friends, let me just show you some of the supplies that we're going to be using here. I've got some white standard pipe cleaners or chenille stems. I've got 4 different rolls of 10-inch deco mesh. We're also going to use the 14-inch wire wreath frame. This is from the Dollar Tree. So let's talk about how we make curls, friends. If you're new to wreath making or new to the curl method, you're going to need either a good pair of scissors and some way to measure your mesh, either a ruler, a self-healing mat, a tape measure, whatever you prefer. And if you want a speedier way, you can bypass the scissors and use your rotary cutter and a self-healing mat. Friends, again, if you are new to wreath making and you've not yet added a rotary cutter to your wreath making toolkit, definitely add this to the top of your list. It'll make your mesh cutting much easier and quicker and give you a really clean result. I'll actually add this below in the materials list so that you can grab one if you'd like to. Okay, so coming back to our wreath form here, again, this is the 14-inch metal wreath frame from the Dollar Tree. And as you can see, there are 4 metal rings. So we'll start with 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's crossbars all the way around, and that gives us 6 sections on this wreath. And the section is the area from one crossbar to the next. And we are going to make DECO mesh curl bundles to make this curl wreath. And so it's kind of an easy method, friends. We've got 4 different colors of DECO mesh, and we're going to place 4 DECO mesh bundles in every single section. Since we've got 6, 4 times 6 is 24. So I'm going to grab 12 of my pipe cleaners here. So I've grabbed 12 of my pipe cleaners here, friends, and what I'm going to do in just small sections here, I'm actually going to fold them in half, and we'll cut these guys in half. We only need half of a pipe cleaner per bundle, so we'll conserve our pipe cleaners and just cut them in half instead of using whole ones. That's why I grabbed 12, so that we could cut them in half and then have the 24 that we need. All right, friends, we've taken our 12 pipe cleaners, we've cut them in half to give us 24, and I'm just going to take my hand and gently fold them into a loose V and set them off to the side. That'll just help you wrap those around your bundles here in just a short bit. So set those guys off to the side. And because we're adding 4 bundles per section, I'm going to do this. I'm going to cut my mesh in batches, or I'm just going to have piles everywhere. If you are going to watch TV or do something relaxing while you make this, just grab yourself a clothes basket or an empty cardboard box, and you can pre-cut all of these and just set them beside you and pull them out. I don't have that available, so we're going to cut them in batches. Let me show you how that's going to work. All right, so each piece of mesh we're going to cut at 10 inches. So this is 10 inches in width, and we want them to be 10 inches in length so that we've got 10 by 10 squares essentially. If you've got a rotary cutter, you can even cut them together. I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But in case you don't, I just wanted to show you how you could do this with a single cut with your rotary cutter or your scissors, if that's the method you're using. I think you're really going to like how full and beautiful this wreath is. It's a super simple method, but boy, those results are stunning. Really pops from your front door. All right, so I want to show you, before we talk about a second way to cut your mesh, I want to show you how you make your curl bundles. So we're adding 1 piece of DECO mesh per bundle of each color. So 1 white, 1 orange, 1 yellow, and 1 green. You can add, you can vary this recipe, friends. So you can use 3 different types of DECO mesh. You can use 6 different types of DECO mesh. I wouldn't use more than 6 colors. That's pretty robust. You can even use just 1 or 2. The thing you need to remember is that you want at least 3 curls per bundle, and you can have upwards of 6. But if you're following what I'm doing today, we're going to be putting 4 curls in a bundle and 4 bundles per section. So that's an easy way to remember. You're using the 4x4 curl method. And so what you're going to do, friends, you can take your DECO mesh, lay it on its back so that the curl side is facing up. And you're just going to take your deco mesh and roll it into a curl, going in the natural direction that your mesh wishes to go. Just make sure that your ends are even and it doesn't get all squirrely on you. And you want to roll it not too tight, not too loose. So you want your ends to be 1.5 inches to 2 inches in diameter. And once you make your first curl, you can either hold it in your fingers, or if it's more comfortable for you, you can grab a chip clip or a clothespin and just pinch them as you go. I'm just going to hold them in my fingers. And then you make curl number 2. Add that into your finger pinch there. We'll make curl number 4. Add that into your finger pinch. And we've got one more. If you're not used to working with deco mesh, friends, it does like to stick to itself and catch on things. So if this is the first time you're working with it, you'll probably want to go ahead and grab a chip clip or a clothespin or something just to make your curling easier. So now, friends, we've got our 4 pieces of deco mesh curled up and added into our fingers here. And so what we're going to do is take one of our half of chenille stem halves or pipe cleaner halves, wrap that around our curl here, and just give it a super tight twist. You really want that to be cinched up nicely, and just give it a couple, 2 or 3 twists, and then you'll have our first bundle. So this is what it looks like. There's no right or wrong way your bundle needs to be put together because they're all going to mesh together once we're done. What I like to do, friends, when I'm making my bundles, because my workspace is limited, I typically cut my deco mesh and then make enough bundles for one section, and then I'll add them in. Then I'll set my wreath off to the side, make another set of bundles for my next section and add them in, and repeat that process until my wreath is full. But you can certainly pre-cut everything and lay it off to the side and build all your bundles at once if you've got the space that will allow you to do so. So once you have your bundle, friends, we're going to add it into the first section of your wire wreath frame. It doesn't matter what section you start out. There's no top or bottom to this. And as we add our sections in, friends, we're only going to use the middle 2 wire rings on the work wreath form. So you won't be doing anything with the inner or the outer, just the middle 2. And what you're going to do, friends, the beveled part of your wire wreath frame is the top, and the concave part is the back. And so what we're going to do is take our chenille stem bits here. We're going to poke that right around the 2 inner rungs. And then you're just going to take your chenille stem and wrap it around those 2 rings and give it 2 or 3 twists, tight twists. I find it easier to spin the whole wreath, but you can spin your fingers if you would like. You'll just have a little bitty nub left over once you're done. It can be a little pokey, so I just take my fingers and kind of poke it back in so it doesn't scratch my or my customer's door. And we have just added our first bundle. So let's move on to the next one. Let me show you the alternate way to cut your mesh. This is only going to work, friends, if you have a super great pair of scissors or a rotary cutter, but you can actually cut all 4 pieces at once. So you simply lay one color on top of the other and make sure your ends line up fairly closely. Again, we're not striving for perfection here. No one's going to be measuring your curls, I promise you that. And once you have all of your mesh layered up here, and you've got your ends matched up, you're just going to measure that out. And you can cut it all at once. Just take your time with your rotary cutter so it can really get through all the layers. And we've just cut all 4 pieces at once. So this time I'll show you how you can hold your curls with a chip clip. Again, you're just going to lay your deco mesh down. We've cut it in a 10 by 10 square. You're going to roll it up so that it's approximately 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. Pinch that guy with your chip clip and set it off to the side. Grab your next piece of deco mesh. Roll it up into a curl. Make sure you keep those ends even. You don't have anything going squirrely. Add that into your chip clip. Set it to the side. And go ahead and make your next curl. Add it into your clip. Set it off to the side. And we'll make our last curl. And remember, friends, for this particular recipe on this video, we are doing the 4x4 method. So that means 4 curls per bundle and 4 bundles per section. So now we've got all 4 curls finished. We're going to grab our chenille stem, which is just a halfie, and it's in a relaxed V. Place that over your bundle right there in the middle. Flip it over. Give it a couple of really tight twists to hold that guy together. Hold your bundle together. And then we'll hop over to our section and add it in again. Give that a couple of 2 or 3 tight twists. I just hold it stationary with my fingers and spin my whole wreath. Then take that little nub of chenille stem or pipe cleaner and make it flat or tuck it back in. Scoot it over to the side. And we're on to our next one. Friends, if you're new to wreath making and you like all things door decor, wreath making, door swags, whether you're brand new to wreath making or you're a seasoned pro, make sure that you give this video a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. And hit that subscribe button so that you can stay in tune here with all of the updated tutorials. I do upload tutorials every week, usually multiple times per week. And join our little creative community here. We have a lot of fun. All right, friends, I've got my curls all stacked together here. I've grabbed a chenille stem half. I am going to wrap this guy around my little bundle of curls. We've got 4 curls per bundle if you're just hopping on. And we're doing the 4x4 method, so it's 4 curls per bundle, 4 bundles per section. We've got our first 2 bundles added in. This is number 3. As you add them in, friends, it gets a little bit trickier because you're having to stuff those guys in there and make room, but it's doable, I promise. Like I mentioned earlier, friends, I just spin my whole wreath frame. I find it's easier. Hold my finger stationary. We'll scoot that guy over. And we've got one more. bunch to add to the section. All right, we've got our 4 curls added in. We're going to take our chenille stem, wrap that around our bunch, give it 2 or 3 super tight twists to really secure that deco mesh. And we'll add this into our section. And this will be our last piece that we add in to this section, friends. So let's get this guy added in. And remember, the last bunch that you add in is always the hardest to add because your section is full. And you're wrapping it around, your chenille stems around those inner 2 rings on your wreath form. Giving that chenille stem 2 or 3 tight twists. And then poking that nub up and under so it doesn't poke you or scratch you. We have just completed the first section, friends. So we've got 1 section down, 5 to go. You can imagine how full this is going to be. So go ahead and cut all of your deco mesh. And remember, you're cutting 4 10 by 10 pieces of deco mesh in your choice of colors. And it's 4 curls per bunch and 4 bunches per section on your wreath. And then I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, we've got 2 of our sections done now. 4 more to go, and look how full that's already getting. All right, guys, back to stuffing our wreath frame. I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, we've got 3 sections done, 3 down, 3 to go. Let's add in another. Okay, friends, we've now got 4 of the 6 sections done. This is really getting to be a big, beautiful wreath, and we've got 2 more to go. 4 down, on to the 5th. All right, friends, 5 sections down and the last one to go. I'll meet you back here. Okay, friends, we have now put 4 bunches of 4 curls in each of the sections. So this is the 4x4 curl method, and just look how full this beauty is. It's hard to believe it started out on the smaller 14-inch wire wreath frame. Let's see how big in diameter it is. This beauty is about 23 inches in diameter, and it's going to come in at 9 inches in depth. So this is definitely a statement piece, friends. So you have just completed what's known as the curl method deco mesh wreath base. I hope you've enjoyed learning these 3 decorative deco mesh wreath bases with me today, friends. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks, friends. Happy crafting.